For generations, this standard has protected
We're following breaking news right now out of Washington, D.C., where a magnitude 5.3 earthquake has been felt in the D.C. area. The Pentagon has been evacuated. We were just talking to Senator Coons of Delaware, who, like so many others right now, slightly shaken by the tremors that they felt. The senator telling me live that the ground literally shook beneath him. Andrea Mitchell, as you also well know, would normally be live during this hour. She's now on the phone as her show was interrupted as a result of this. Andrea, can you tell me what you're hearing and what was even felt at our D.C. bureau there?
Cameron, I've never felt anything like this. We're all...
It will take months, even years, for the stone spires to be brought back to its original condition. On the National Mall, the closed Washington Monument continued to attract visitors. Park police kept tourists a safe distance away.
And how long the repair work is going to take. It's impossible to give an exact date.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to get weird on this, so please take it for what it's worth. But it seems to me the Washington Monument is a symbol of America's power. It has been the symbol of our great nation. We look at that monument and we say, this is one nation under God. Now there's a crack in it. There's a crack in it and it's closed up. Is that a sign from the Lord?
And we're just off the coast of the Carolinas now, in the Outer Banks area, and that's the direction we understand the storm is headed. It's got a ways to go. It's clear here. There's a little bit of structure in the clouds, but not much. I take that back. There's thin stuff that's actually spiraling way out here. In Houston, we're just talking here, and it struck us. We're used to traveling a long ways in a short amount of time, but this storm is stretching from Cuba to the Carolinas, and that is one scary big storm.
Yeah, you bet, Mike. I mean, it was almost 6 minutes that you guys were directly over that thing, so that just gives us a little bit of the scale. It's pretty incredible.
We may have surpassed a record at 65 million people, it seems, by estimates. More people were hit by Hurricane Irene than have ever been hit by a single storm in the history of the United States.
Washington, D.C., you'd think by now they'd get the message. An earthquake, a hurricane. Are you listening? And now it's time for an act of God, and we're getting it.
I saw a little tetrahedron.
Exactly. On the official
NASA stereo B footage of the interaction a few days ago.
It looked like a floating pyramid.
It was the night that you and I were supposed to be in the studio here in Albuquerque. That night, Stereo B, which is one of these NASA solar spacecraft, took a sequence of video frames across millions of miles from Earth's orbit to about the orbit of Venus. That's the distance that Elenin was from the spacecraft that night, 23 million miles. And it photographed Elenin interacting with the solar wind, this spray of charged particles that's constantly blowing off the sun. And because of this ghostly impingement of this radiation in space around Elenin, suddenly a shape showed up, a geometric figure. Elenin appears to have a tetrahedrally shaped geometric, I can only call it a force field, which is interacting with the solar wind, with hydrogen and free protons and electrons that basically recombine to cause it to light up, kind of like glowing when it hits this screen. That shape, that geometry, is incredibly recursive of the geometry embodied in the trajectory. All those 19.5 numbers are now embodied in the shape of the field around this thing itself, meaning it's not just a Bergy bit. It cannot just be a comet. It has to be an actual ship with generators and computers and control, meaning it could do anything from here on.
Brothers and sisters, I am exceedingly pleased that you have gathered in my name. You have given me hope that there is a remnant of humanity worth saving, though I am not entirely pleased with how you have treated our clergy. I have discovered that you have not been supporting them financially. These are the people working to save your soul. Would you have them go hungry? Unclothed, perhaps? Or have you decided to lay yet another burden upon me? Have I not done enough for you, that you would not support those I deem worthy? I do not want to raise this subject again. They are your clergy. They are providing for you. You must, in turn, provide for them. I am chastising those outside of our church. I have no desire to do that from within as well. Pay your tithings. Now on to the subject that has caused you so much pernicious consternation over the years. Adultery. Adultery is not what you think. Let us clear the air, so there is no misunderstanding. Sex is not wrong in my eyes. nor is it wrong in my father's. The only restriction that I place upon fornication is that it be consensual. Beyond that, it is a matter only between those parties involved. I find it laughable that your legends of me lead you to believe that I was a chaste virgin. Really? With the woman I love being a prostitute? What on earth would make you think that I would be a prude? I am after all Roman, and we are not known for being prudish in our pursuits. This most likely surprises the majority of you. It should not. How many times have I told you the importance of love? In whatever form it takes, love is good. Providing non-detrimental pleasure to another is love, and that is not wrong. Twisting my words for over 2,000 years to oppress, to cause guilt and suffering to those poor souls whose only wish was to find love in the arms of another, to place shame upon them. That is very, very wrong. But adultery, it is not the act of fornicating with someone other than your spouse. It is instead producing an offspring outside of your genetic line. I will explain briefly. When we first came to this planet, for reasons that are our own, we created you and your kind, but just like children, you were not fully developed. And it is a truism that only time can mature. So our grand intention was to give you the time necessary to spiritually evolve, and hopefully, eventually, reach parity with us. There were others in this region who saw the learning opportunity far too great to ignore. They placed their own seed lines on earth alongside of you. It afforded several interested parties the opportunity to grow souls into maturity, away from their settled communities. To put it another way, you were placed at the children's table for dinner, while the adults monitored. Though not politically correct to say, you are aware that there are traits, certain inherent differences between the races of your planet. You may pretend that they do not exist, but you know that they do. The interested parties do not want these seed lines intermingled, because it creates a problem for a mixed seed line cell to find a place to reside after this life. It is a simple fact that people prefer to be with others that are similar. It is not unique to this planet. Look at the countries that make up your world. The ones that are homogeneous tend to be the most peaceful, while those other countries, who have been integrated, are often the most prone to violence. The other worlds have no desire to experience such violence, which is why you have been isolated here, so that you may outgrow your temperament while learning tolerance of others. Let's say that I had a bottle of Chateau Lafite. If I poured half the bottle down a sink and decided to refill that portion with tap water, I would have adulterated the wine. I would have taken something of great substance and watered it down. It would then neither be good wine nor good water. Your seed lines are much the same. And when you produce such an offspring, it takes several generations to restore the original level of genetic integrity. You should be familiar with Deuteronomy 23:2. No one born of a forbidden marriage, nor any of his descendants, may enter the assembly of the Lord, even down to the 10th generation. The assembly was to remain a pure seed line. If a member of the assembly bare a child of a mixed seed line, it would take 10 generations of that offspring to be genetically pure enough to re-enter the assembly and safely procreate with members of the assembly. This is important to us, so important that uncontrolled mixed breeding led to the flood of Noah. In Genesis 6, you read how the sons of God had relations with the daughters of man. The coupling led to the creation of a third race, a terrible race, so in need of dispatch that the flood was the only truly viable solution. As you read in Genesis 6:9, Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations. Perfect in his generations. There was no mixed seed line within him. He was genetically pure, and for this reason he was preserved. Now you understand what was meant by our commandment against adultery. Consensual sex for pleasure is not a sin. Creating genetically inferior offspring that will suffer for generations because you were genetically irresponsible, that is a very great sin. It is, of course, Satan who made the United States what it is today. It is Nebuchadnezzar's feet of iron and clay, a powerful kingdom, but so terribly mixed it cannot adhere to itself. These brittle feet support the world, and when they finally crumble, the kingdoms of the world shall follow. But do not despair, for when the beast is brought low, it shall be replaced by our everlasting kingdom of love. And this world will finally know peace. As this is our first church service, it will be exceedingly brief. After future sermons, I will spend time answering questions that have been sent to the commandery. I want you to know something. This is our place. This is where we are brothers and sisters. This is where we share love. This is where you may come to be free of Satan's grip. This is a place where you can be with others just like yourself, where you need not be afraid, where you are safe. This is sanctuary. for those who are good. It has brought me no pleasure to do what I have done to those outside of our congregation. But this is to be our world, our new heaven. And while evil persists, paradise cannot be achieved. We cannot have a kingdom of love while a kingdom of hate and oppression still exists. And though this is to be my kingdom, this is your church. This was built as a shelter for you, my worthy brothers and sisters, so that you may congregate together and support each other through these very trying times. I have so much I wish to tell you, to share with you, but there is so little time remaining. I do want to warn you that what you have seen thus far is but a wake-up call. I want you to prepare. Now, to other pressing matters. This is to both Israel and the United Nations. Do not divide my land. There is a Palestinian solution. It does not involve the reduction of Israel. Israel is to remain intact. If its borders are reduced, you shall know my anger. Now, my brothers and sisters, spread what you have learned today. Do not let others die in the dark. Bring them to my light, so that they may live. And above all else, love your Father and love each other.